Hello, hello, hello. We've been given a life to save, and we've been given a life. We aren't here to be NPC or non-player characters. We aren't here to wait around in the background of things afraid to make a noise. We are here to save our soul from the corporate capture of El Diablo and then help others to do the same. I'm not sure, but I think without ego we are louder, or we make a bigger noise, or our impact is deeper. And here I'm talking about the ego that manifests as fear. We are here to effect things, to give from our boundless spirits, the God-given gifts we possess, deflating our ego enough to where we can get out of our own way, enough to where we can discover our purpose and our gift to provide a light in the world and find fulfillment for our journey here, to connect with God or the eternal witness beyond thoughts, so that we may be detached enough from our ego to use our human presence as a force of good. If we are mired in fully identifying as the self, we will be too concerned and afraid to make a noise or express ourselves, and our lives will then become distraction-based. Knowing deep down we have something to give, and we will start to work on giving it in an endless array of tomorrows that never really arrive. Does that sound familiar? Can you relate to that? I know I can, and this is the work of getting out of our own way. In other words, we are here to overcome fear or the mind so that we can really move, really sing, really dance, really believe, really give, and really receive. So how do we do it? How do we negotiate our way out of the predicament of our deeply ingrained psychological and spiritual limitations that we all have? It's a balance of disidentifying with our broken egos, which we do by becoming the witness of our egos or our minds, practicing awareness all day, every day, so that life itself becomes a kind of living meditation, a practice of awareness where the light within is always on, and witnessing the broken logic of our egos as the primary tool to remove our mind's power of separating us from the power of our authentic will, the will of our spirit or our soul, and yes, even the will of God, which is aligned with our spirit when we are divorced from fear, aka the devil's cattle call. To give light here for others and create a fulfilling life for ourselves and our families. What else is there really? We can't do that from a space of fear and regret, fear of the future or regrets of the past, and that is where the mind or thoughts perpetually live in fear and regret. So we have to know thyself, be aware, and make awareness the primary objective of our daily lives. Make awareness our objective. Seek first the Father, or however you want to word it or think about it. It's simply a matter of making present moment awareness our primary objective, no matter the task we are engaging in. This isn't easy at first, but like any other practice, it becomes easier with time. And I'm no expert, and my journey in this regard is relatively short, but it's been going on for months now, where a shift has seemed to have occurred, to which this has been my priority, and it appears there is no going back. There seems to be a point where there is no going back into identifying as thoughts or emotions, but rather the one who is watching thoughts and emotions occur from within. They give this state all kinds of fancy and big spiritual descriptions. Enlightenment being the one that first comes to mind. Awakening is another. And they give reaching this state spooky and pretentious connotations, i.e. you have to be a guru who meditates in a mountain for multiple lifetimes to reach it. But all that is ridiculous. At root, it's just awareness. And I even will make the disclaimer here that I am not making grandiose claims, but rather attempting to demystify something that should be considered a more regular and accessible experience, and in fact is a more regular experience than how it's been represented historically. It's a state of living in a kind of perpetual awareness and nothing more. It's simply being the observer of your thoughts rather than the one who is identifying as thoughts. Metacognition is another name for it, and many teachers of this practice describe it differently, but it's all the same, and it's no big deal in terms of arriving there. Thought is driven by fear and concern and regret, subject entirely to the whims and desires of our lives on the material plane, of which we have little to no control, like trying to build a home on quicksand which crashes around like waves of the ocean. It's a useless and impossible foundation. Whereas witness consciousness is removed from that. Witness consciousness is watching it from a place of detached empowerment, from where we can leverage our will towards the direction we want to actually go in, and then give the gifts of our spirit to a world in desperate need of them. And this is the place where boundless creative freedom and fearlessness blend. So what is enlightenment, and why give it mystical descriptions? Ultimately, it's just another state of mind, but it's a state of mind that is a state of no mind. And even that's not accurate, because the mind still operates, still has concern and fear and regret. However, in this state, the distance between you and it is significant, and I imagine over time increases. But from the moment we shift from being identified as our thoughts to being identified as the witness of our thoughts, they cease to have significant power to disrupt and corrupt our lives. The minute we are disturbed by their shenanigans, an alarm goes off to alert us to become present again and find our center of beingness. Once you're awake to beingness and the possibility of remaining there, your mind becomes like two houses, one that is nice and the other is on fire. You simply cannot walk into the burning building anymore, even if you wanted to. You simply get close enough to it to feel its burning heat and automatically go back to the nice comfortable crib of beingness. Upon first awakening or being born into awareness, I think the homes are relatively close together, like unruly next door neighbors. You can still feel the heat coming from your old home permanently on fire as you're sitting in the new home with expanding walls, just grateful you're out of there. But as time passes, the distance between them no doubt increases until the burning home is no more than a distant memory. We give these things mystical language and complicate them with concepts of spiritual achievement and pretension, but that's a trick of the devil, keeping us identifying as the mind or immersed in thought as the ultimate reality, or thinking that any other possibility is beyond plebs like us. But is it? Forgiving everyone and everything in our lives is crucial, though, and I recognize this is no small task, so I'm not saying that any of this is easy, but I am saying that it's possible, and it's not as mystical as it's often presented to be. Forgiveness is key, because without it, the power of thought and thought's ability to overwhelm us is simply too great to break our identification with it. So it helps to view forgiveness as the keys to unlocking the cage in our mind, which gives us freedom within to explore a new foundation of identification, to have the freedom to become the observer rather than the one mired by dramas, fears, and resentments. Mind identification is no more than torture and suffering, with reliefs from empty distraction and the occasional illusion of some strange victory that acts as nothing more than an occasion of greater fear, really, because perceiving to have gained something, now we have to protect it. And because the perceived victories that mind identification allows are primarily setups keeping us on the mind's gerbil wheel, we wouldn't stay on it for a lifetime if there weren't some reliefs within the suffering that it causes. There must be rewards within its environment of punishments. In a way, it's too bad that there are rewards, for without those we would find liberation long before most of us begin looking. And we only look when its tailspin of destruction stops working for us in any way, shape, or form. We can call living outside of that enlightenment or awakening. With the light of observation always on as our identity divorces from identification with insanity, we can call that enlightenment. But really, what it is a natural progression of human evolution into sanity. I guess my premise here is to demystify this state and to bring it down to earth. Words like enlightenment and awakening are too spiritual and don't really point enough, in my view, for the pragmatism of escaping thought identification. Logic is the study of correct reasoning. So there's an irony here, as logic is seen as a quality of the mind again. So to say it's logical or pragmatic to go beyond the mind may seem to be contradictory, but it's not really. It's supremely logical when we study the dysfunctional aspects of our thought patterns. And our thought patterns can't be negotiated with. We must do a complete reset, like with a fragmented computer, where our relief comes by the light of internal observation. We do this reset by switching operating systems entirely from thought identification to identifying as the observer of our thoughts and not believing that they are in any way realistic, but rather fragments from a dysfunctional mind that has been long tortured by a cruel world. Can you relate to that? Can I get a witness? That sounds dark, but it's not. It's freedom. Engulfed in the true blessings our lives are and have always been submerged in, without really being able to understand or get to the blessings past the noise of our idiotic minds. The mind will do its best to make you believe it's not that bad and that following its whims and flights of madness is the way out of suffering. But it's the ultimate abusive relationship, full of gaslighting, blame shifting, cognitive dissonance, and crazy making. The mind is an abuser, there is no doubt about it, and as a master there is nothing but hell to pay from it. It's a bad deal, and the only way out is the power of observation, authentic assessment of the situation, and applying our will to the task of staying dedicated to switching our operating systems. You can frame this a bunch of ways, and many have. God versus the devil is one way. Thought identification versus witness consciousness is another. Historically, we've called people who arrive in this state of witness consciousness saints or gurus, but I think we should change all that and see it as a pragmatic solution to the problem of just being human. Collectively, our consciousness is rising, and I think collectively humanity will save itself when it's common for us all to overcome the mind. Thanks for watching. I hope you can relate. Let me know what you think. Have you overcome the mind? I'm working on it. It's a daily battle. It's still up there causing all kinds of problems. I'm just not taking it as seriously anymore. Thank God for that. All right, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.